Hello guys, welcome to the channel. In this short video, I'm gonna be explaining iTEP scores. I'll be helping you understand what the different scores in different skills mean. Now, recently, that was 4 days ago, I received a comment. I got a comment on one of the videos that I published. The comment was from Burak Khan. This was his comment. He wrote, "Hi, my name is Burak. Hi, Burak. First of all, you really helped me prepare for this exam. I'm very grateful. I'll take the iTEP exam in about 5 days. Okay, I wish you the best. I have a question I want to ask you. Apart from the writing and speaking parts, how is the scoring scale in the questions of the grammar, reading, and listening parts?" Okay, that is question number one, the writing scale. Then he went on to give an example. He says, as an example, if we get 30 correct out of 40 questions in the reading and listening parts in the IELTS exam, we get 6.5 or 25 correct. Then 25 correct goes with 6.0 points with that category. As a correct number scale like this, how many correct points do we need to get? 4, or do we need to get 4 or 4.5 out of 6 on average in grammar, reading, and listening sections in the iTEP exam? Did I make myself clear, sir? First of all, Burak, thank you for your question. This video was made because of your comment. So there are two questions. Number one, the scoring scale. Number two, how many points do you need to get a 4 or 4.5 in grammar, reading, and listening? In this video, I'm gonna try to explain that. First of all, I'm gonna put a disclaimer that the scores that we are gonna talk about today, iTEP reserves the right to change them. So in future, if you come back to this video, the scores may have changed because the exam evolves, okay? There are some things which used to happen in the past, but they are not happening now. So these are the recent scores, but they may change in the future, and iTEP has the right to do so. Okay, so that is the iTEP grading scale. As you can see, it has 6 levels. Okay, there are 6 levels from beginner to elementary, intermediate, upper intermediate, mastery, and advanced. And every level has a range of scores. If you get a 5.5, between 5.5 to 6, that is a C2 and it is mastery. 4.5 to 5.4, that's a C1 and it is considered advanced level. 3.5 to 4.5, that's a B2 and it's upper intermediate. 2.5 to 3.4, that is B1, which is intermediate. Then between 2.0 to 2.4, that is A2, elementary. Then between 0 to 1.9, that is A1, which is beginners. Now, one of the few things that I want to bring to your attention, between one level and another, the difference between level B2, from B1, B2, C1, and C2, the difference is 1. 5.5, 4.5, 3, 5.5 and above C2, 4.5 and above C1, 3.5 and above, that's B2, 2.5 and above is B1, 2.0 is A2, 1.9 and below, that is A1. But what are the individual scores for the individual skills that you need to get to have the score that you need? Before we get into that, you need to understand how they calculate these scores. It's very important. It will help you learn a lot about how they grade your exam. So grammar, reading, and listening are checked automatically by the computer, okay? But there is a mathematical formula which they use, and that is how the scores are calculated. What do? They get the points that you have gotten from that specific skill, okay? Those points you have gotten are divided by the total number of points in that skill and that is multiplied by 6. Okay, they get the points from a skill that you've done. For example, in grammar, how many correct answers do you have? Then what is the total, which is 25? Then that is multiplied by 6. Okay, the answer, the final result, is tabulated. Then the answer from the different individual skills are added and then divided. Let me show you. Let's say you've done the grammar test and you have gotten 20 questions correct out of the total, which is 25. Okay, this is multiplied by 6. So 20 divided by 25 multiplied by 6 will give us 4.8. Okay, which is C1 level. But that is only for grammar. The same method will be used for reading and listening. Okay, so if you get a 4.8, when we come back to our previous table, 4.8 is in this range. So a student who gets 4.8 in grammar gets a C1, but that's not the end of the story. They have to combine all the other skills. They add grammar plus listening plus reading plus writing plus speaking. Then that is divided by 5, and the final answer will give us your score. So that is the mathematics behind the calculation of scores. The points you have gotten, divide by the total, multiplied by 6. Okay, and how do they set your final score? First, using the previous method that we have seen, they first determine the score for the individual skill. Okay, after doing that, then they will add all the scores and they divide them by 5. The answer is your final score. So first, determine the individual score for the individual skills. Then add all the scores for different skills. That is, we're talking about grammar is added, plus the score you've gotten from listening, then the score you've gotten from reading, then the score you've gotten from writing, and finally the score that you've gotten from speaking. Okay, then this is divided by 5, which is the total number of scores. Then the answer that will give us the final mark. So that is how they calculate your score. Now we are going to see how they determine the scores for individual skills. And we are going to start with grammar. So in grammar, if you get 23 to 25 of the correct answers, that is between 5.5 and 6, which is C2. If you get between 19 to 22 questions correct, that will put you between 4.5 and 5.4, which is a C1. If you get between 15 to 18 questions right, if they are correct, that will put you between 3.5 to 4.4, which is a B2. And this is normally what is required from most candidates. Most of the candidates that I've worked with, they normally look for a B2. So in grammar, if you need a B2, you need to get between 15 to 18 questions correct. That will put you between 3.5, which is a B2, between 3.5 to 4.4, which is a B2. If you need a better mark, then you need to get between 19 to 22, which will give you a C1. Then between 11 to 14, that is a B1, which is in a range of 2.5 to 3.4. 10 correct answers will put you between 2.0 to 2.4, which is an A2. And if you get between 0 to 9 answers correct, that will put you between 0 to 1.9, which is a 1. Okay, so Burak, to answer your question, if you want to get a 4, you need to get between 15 to 18 questions, right? That will give you a B2. If you want a 4.5, you need to have between 19 to 22 answers correct, and that will give you a C1. I hope I've answered the question. From grammar, we're going to continue with listening. So listening has 14 questions in total. There are 14 possible marks. Okay, so if you get between 13 to 14 answers correct, okay, that will put you between 5.5 and 6.0, which is a C2. If you get between 11 to 12 correct answers, that is between 4.5 to 5.4, which is a C1. If you have 9 to 10 questions correct, if you get them correct between 9 to 10, that will put you between 3.5 to 4.4, which is a B2. Then between 6 to 8 correct answers puts you between 2.5 to 3.4, which is a B1. Then 5 correct answers puts you between 2.0 to 2.4. And finally, if you get 0 to 4, that will put you in A1, which is between 0 to 1.9. So if a student wants to get a 4.0, they need to be in this category. If you need a 4.0, so you need to have between 9 to 10 correct answers. But if you want a 4.5, you need to have between 11 to 12 correct answers. So that is listening. We're going to continue to reading. Reading is a bit different. Why? Because sometimes the maximum number of questions is 12. Sometimes the maximum is 10. Okay? And it is not constant. So if you get between 11 to 12 answers correct, that will put you in the C2 category, which is between 5.5 to 6.0. If you get between 9 to 10 correct answers, that will be a 5.4 to, that will put you between 4.5 to 5.4, which is a C1. Then 7 to 8 correct answers puts you in a B2, which is between 3.5 to 4.4. Then 5 to 6 correct answers is between 2.5 to 3.4, which is a B2, which is a B1, sorry. Then 4 correct answers will give you an A2, which is 2, between 2.0 to 2.4. Then finally A1, where you have to get between 0 to 3 correct answers, and the range is 0 to 1.9. So in reading, if you need to get a 4, in reading, you need to be in this category. If you want to get 4.0 in reading, you need to be in this category. If you need a 4.5, this is the category that you need, between 9 to 10 correct answers. Okay? Yeah. Okay, we continue. That is when you have 12 questions. But sometimes you may have 10 questions. If you have 10 questions, then this is the formula. If you get all the 10 questions right, that will give you a C2. If you get between 9 to 10 questions correct, that will put you between 4.5 to 5.4. If you get between 6 to 7, that will put you between 3.5 to 4.4. Okay? If you get between 5, if you get 5 correct answers, that is going to put you between 2.5 to 3.4, which is a B1. 4 correct answers will give you an A2, which is 2.0 to 2.4. And then finally, if you get 0 to 3 questions right, that will give you a 1.9, which is an A1. Now, if you want to get, if they have brought 10 questions and you want to get a 4.0, you have to get 6 to 7 answers correct. But if you want to get a 4.5, you need to have 8 to 9 questions correct. Of the 10 questions, between 8 or 9 questions have to be answered correctly. I think I've answered your question. So that is reading. The scale will depend on whether the questions are either 10 or 12. If they are 12, you use this scale on the left. And if they are 10, you use the scale on the right. So that is the grading scale for reading, listening, and grammar. Now, if we continue to speaking and writing are a bit different. Why? Because they are not marked quantitatively, rather they are marked qualitatively. It will depend on the quality of your writing. And they use 4 parameters. And this information is from the iTEP preparation guide, the 2016 edition. Also, the 2019 edition talks about them, but they are more mentioned in the 2016 edition. Okay, so the first parameter is accuracy and appropriateness. And in accuracy and appropriateness, the question they ask is whether you have answered the question exhaustively. Okay, have you been able to respond to the question? So they give you a grade for that. Next will be vocabulary, and under vocabulary, they will ask whether you have used topic-specific vocabulary to address the question. I have to mention that vocabulary is not about writing sophisticated words. The words don't have to necessarily be long or complicated for a person to understand. They just have to be topic specific and relevant. Let me give you an example. If you are talking about a topic of global warming, you're going to use words like carbon dioxide, pollution, increase in temperatures. Those are topic specific vocabulary. That is what they look for. They don't look for flowery language, sophisticated words. They just have to be relevant to the topic that you're discussing. Thirdly, in listening and in writing and speaking, they will also check the development of the idea. And under development of the idea, there are 2 key issues. Issue number 1 is whether your response is well explained and supported with reasons and examples. When you are writing your points, have you tried to explain? Have you given an example to act as evidence for what you're arguing? Secondly, does the response come to a point? Now, this is very important in writing part 2 and speaking part 2, where you have to address an issue and you give your opinion. So you have to make sure that at the end of the answer, your response comes to a point. That is when you have a very good score. Then finally, it's grammar, which is the 4th parameter. And grammar is all about rules, but it's not just about rules. What they ask is whether you have used a range of grammatical structures. Okay, by a range of grammatical structures, they mean whether you have tried to use, for example, a question may come asking about the present. You don't have to necessarily only discuss it in the present. You can even use the past and the future. You can use some conditionals. You can use relative pronouns, determiners. That is what they mean by range of grammatical structures. It doesn't have to necessarily be applying and respecting the rules of grammar. You have to mix it up with a range of grammatical structures. Do they have to be complicated? Not necessarily. They just have to be accurate and correct. So thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. I hope I've answered your questions about the grading and scoring of the iTEP exam. Goodbye. See you in the next video.